Welcome to another episode of Investing in Intellectual Property with Dave. Today, we have a very special guest. This person has found a second career in retirement and being an entrepreneur and inventing her first product, TP Suites. Please help me welcome Rhonda Mason. How's it going, Rhonda?
Hey, David. Going good. How you doing today?
I am doing pretty good. I'm excited about having you on, and I know we're talking offline a little bit about, I guess, my reasoning for doing doing the podcast, and I know you were kind of giving a little bit of how you got into the inventing game and starting a business. I guess maybe first, before kind of get starting with it all, can you maybe explain what TP Suites is? It seems like you have maybe some in the background there. And typically, I've been trying to kind of buy the product so I can kind of show it off and whatnot. But I know, and we'll get off into this a little later, kind of you're going through the Kickstarter phase, so I wasn't able to get hands on the product at this point in time. But for, I guess, the listeners and for the audience, can you maybe explain a little bit what TP Suites is?
Well, it is a premium bathroom furniture. I'm training myself not to call it a toilet paper holder because there is quite a bit of difference between this product and a toilet paper holder that exposes the toilet paper. The differentiating part of my product is, first off, it's made out of premium exotic wood, acacia wood, which is a wonderful material for a moisture environment. But the differentiating part is that it completely conceals the toilet paper. You know, so many times all you see, especially in luxury bathrooms or high-end bathrooms, is the one roll of toilet paper. And we all know that that is not sufficient. And a survey proved that 83% had discovered too late there was no tissue roll.
And I'm sorry to cut you off there, but I typically, you're exactly right, because when I find out that I need another roll of toilet paper, it's typically too late at that point.
So why not have 4 rolls within reach of the seat? But the reason they don't put those there is because they're so ugly. I mean, it distracts, it destroys your surrounding decor. So this product, TP Suites, provides 4 rolls within reach of the seat, but it's completely, you can dispense, shield, conceal the toilet paper, and it enhances your surrounding decor instead of destroys it.
No, so how did you find out that? I know you said typically they only use one roll because the other rolls are, and I think you called it like a pole on a stick, which I thought was fascinating and a good description. But you had said that they don't put the other rolls there because it's not, which I agree, it's not appealing. How did you find that out? Did you, I guess, talk to the customers, or do you talk to manufacturers? How did you find that fact out?
Well, I guess I drew that from myself. You know, I was in, and this is kind of the divine spark that I feel like the Lord gave me. My life was unbalanced because I had to quit work abruptly to take care of my parents. So I was not being academically or mentally stimulated at all. I was cooking and cleaning and caring for people. So one day in my bathroom, I looked around and everything was beautiful. And then my eyes landed on the toilet paper. And I said, this is not right. This is imbalanced. This looks terrible. This is an eyesore among all this. So I drew that conclusion from how it made me feel. And I looked for products on the market. I didn't find what I needed, so I made one. And I loved it, and I made more, and friends and family loved it. So then I thought, well, maybe I can make this little idea into a bigger venture.
So did you, when you said you were in the bathroom, were you at that point in time looking for something to get into or looking for a product to invent, whether it was in a bathroom or a living room decor or something like that? Or were you kind of looking at something to do, to create, to kind of start a business around and sell? Or was it something that you just identified and said, hey, I think I can kind of do it differently and look to sell my product?
It was that. I was not looking. I mean, I've always been creative all my life. I've always made things, for myself. So I wasn't looking to mass market. or to make this a business. It was a problem that I identified, that I made a solution for, and I want to share it with the world. That's how it came about.
Gotcha.
I
Gotcha.
didn't know I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but hell, I just am now, and I love it.
So then I know we were talking a little bit offline where you were saying you were in the medical field. So now you have this product, or you have this ideal, but again, this is something completely new. What's the next step? Do you go to Google to type in manufacturers? Do you call a family member or a family friend and say, hey, I have this idea, what shall I do? Because again, this can seem overwhelming to someone who, again, this is the first time going through this process, and they're coming from a completely different industry. So I guess what was those next steps? Because I think those are important, I guess, for people who are trying to kind of maybe do a similar thing with their ideal, to kind of just put their best foot forward with things.
And that's true. And at times this whole process, I'm going on 3.5 years working on this. So, and at times it has been overwhelming, but it is exciting and challenging at the same time. And I've never come to the point that I wanted to give up. But in the beginning, I searched online, about ideas. I came across some coaching groups that teach you how to license your idea. So I started with that. They taught me a lot, not to the point that I was successful, because I do think my product has particular challenges. So, but I started with that. I joined some groups. I, joined some inventor groups. Just the camaraderie, the talking with other people, that helped me get started. And I learned about intellectual property, PPAs, how you start with that. And honestly, I did this little course where it kind of guides you through writing a PPA. And the first 3, I went through 3 PPAs. I did write myself, and for someone that is more advanced in their development, that might not be a good idea. But in my case, it worked out okay, because my product changed from my first homemade little thing in the bathroom. It evolved. It became more refined, more adaptable to mass manufacturing rather than homemade, hand assembled type products. So it changed, as I went along.
And no, and just for the audience, when she says PPA, she's meaning provisional patent application. So it seems like you're saying that because I was going to ask you when, because I know I kind of talked to prior guests and they said, hey, no, that's something that I looked at the beginning. Even if it is just filing a provisional patent application, just to kind of get something on file with the USPTO, it's relatively inexpensive. It doesn't have to be in a final form or format that the USPTO requires. And again, it gets your place in line. And it seems like you're saying that, okay, I was able to kind of do it myself with the help of kind of some classes and some programs that you had took, which especially with more mechanical structural inventions, it's a lot easier to do that, because as long as you have drawings, even if the words are maybe not as complete as they would be when you go to convert that to a non-provisional application, the drawings can, what they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So that can be really helpful when an individual inventor is looking to file a provisional patent application themselves. So did you now, because I think maybe I read that you had a design application or a design patent on the invention. Did you file a utility and a design, or was the provisional application just on the utility?
I actually only filed on design. I did, after I really settled on my design, and it was after the 3rd PPA. Up to that point, I had not publicly disclosed the product. So that's why I could just refile another PPA when the first one was expiring. But by the time I feel like I really got to the final design, then I did hire a patent agent. She's not an attorney, but she's an agent. And, she did another patent search for me to see what was out there. And she just didn't feel like the the unit as a whole was utility patentable. So we took parts of the product and did a design patent.
Gotcha.
And
And,
just request.
okay, so and yeah, so and again, just kind of explaining things for the audience here. A utility patent protects the I guess the utility of it or how it's used, things like that. Whereas a design patent protects the ornamental feature of it, the ornamental look of it. Now, one of the good things about a design compared to a utility, it's less expensive. It only lasts for 15 years compared to 20 years of a utility patent, but then the examination time is a lot less than what a utility application is going to take. So has that design patent application issued into a design patent or is it still pending?
It is still pending at this
Okay.
time. And I did my factory. I have secured a factory, and my factory is in Vietnam. So I had her to go ahead and extend the patent to the Vietnam, since that's where it's being made. So when they're issued, then I will have a U.S. patent and a design patent from Vietnam. And the reason that I feel fine about the design patent is many of the factories I talked to didn't want to make it round like it is. They said, no, can't make it round, too hard. So it is unique. There is the design of it, the shape of it, the silhouette of it does make it a different design than what is, currently similar to it. And the other thing is defending a utility patent. I don't even have the money right now to manufacture, let alone go to court and defend a utility patent. So that was
Well, yeah, and like you said, the utility that process to file and get a utility patent is yeah, it's going to be more expensive than the design. And I guess obviously you find out when you're going through this process, even though something is not out there, so to speak, it's still a lot of things that have been filed or whatnot. I've never seen anything, at least in the stores, or came across anything online or whatnot with, like you said, kind of the silhouette where you can has the cavity that you can put additional rolls of tissue, toilet paper in. So I thought that was pretty interesting as I was kind of checking out uh, your invention. And so, yeah, and it'd be interesting whether or not a utility application could have been gotten on it. So that's pretty interesting. But then you had talked about licensing the product, and the original goal was to license the product. And I was talking to some guys who had been on Shark Tank. They had the turbo thruster, and everybody. The goal is to license the product just because it's a low overhead. You don't have to spend a whole lot of money outside of maybe protecting the invention. And some of your passing that cost down to someone else in exchange for some type of royalty payment. I guess I know you said it didn't work out. I guess what was that process like? How long did you spend trying to license it? Who did you talk to? What were their feedback? You kind of give us a little bit of that story.
Yeah, I tried for almost 2 years to license it. And in my mind, my vision was that this would be good for manufacturers that make bathroom vanities, because this could be paired, this could be matched to the bathroom vanities. It could be, I mean, there's a small domain of bathroom furniture. Basically, you have maybe a, cabinet and a vanity.
Yep.
Other than that, there's really not bathroom furniture. So I just didn't I sent emails. Of course, nobody answered, tried to make calls, couldn't get past the gatekeeper. It was, I feel like I gave it a really good try, but I just couldn't. And I understand I didn't have anything to offer. I mean, I only had a PPA. I didn't have any proof that this product was marketable, that how people would respond to it. So that makes it so much harder when you haven't actually produced and sold and have sales under your belt. So it is very challenging to license. And since there is not a similar product to compare to, it's not like I took a product that was on the market and just tweaked it a little bit, to make it a little better. So I didn't have any leverage, really.
So
So
this seems like you're saying because this is almost like a brand new product in and of itself. If this was your, because a lot of what people don't know is you don't have a lot of groundbreaking patents. So you're not going from the dial-in telephone and all of a sudden you have the iPhone. It typically doesn't work like that. These are incremental improvements that it's still stuff out there, but you're tweaking it a little bit, improving it a little bit. That's typically how this works when you're talking, and it makes sense, right? You're maybe doing something on your day-to-day lives, and you're like, I don't like the way this is done or that is done. If we just tweak it to do it like this or that, it'll be a lot better. But you're saying this was so different that you or maybe potential investors couldn't compare to anything to see if it would be successful or not.
That that's effective. So, my challenge right now, even with starting a manufacturer, I have started trying to raise the funds, but people are not, they're going to the cart and they're not finishing the purchase. And so I feel like now I'm kind of restructuring. I feel like I need to change the mindset of people to stop thinking of just a toilet paper holder and think of this as an addition to bathroom furniture. And I've kind of tried to make the comparison of, let's take the other rooms in your house, your bedroom with the bedside tables. How would the look of the room or the ambiance of the room be changed if you just used a folding TV tray beside your beautiful headboard? Or your beautiful oak table in your dining room? How would it be affected if you just put folding chairs around the beautiful table? Why should the bathroom be any different? Why have a flimsy metal, toilet paper holder with the toilet paper sitting there like it's decor when it's not decor? Why is the bathroom any different? So I need to change the mindset of people to think, to put the price value. Now, my price that I'm asking for it is $89, but people can go to and buy a flimsy one for $29, but I need to change the mindset. They need to see this as a piece of furniture and not a toilet paper holder.
Right. Yep. And that's seems like that's interesting and different in that you almost have to recondition the buyer to see, hey, why do you need this, as opposed to them saying, okay, I do need it, and like, no, you have to kind of maybe convince them that they need it, so to speak. So you were talking about licensing. At what point did you say, okay, this is not working, I need to pivot or shift gears?
It's about 5 months ago. Just about 5. So I've been, and there again, I found a coaching program that really is their platform is to develop a Kickstarter campaign. So I've been going through that program, not inexpensive by any means, but, teaching me how to run Facebook ads, how to view my metrics, the click-through rates, the costs, the landing page conversions, understanding all of that stuff, which I don't feel like I could have done. I mean, this whole thing has been like a college education, so, and I have had to invest in myself. But the thing I think is important too is that I made a commitment with myself that I would not go in debt and I would not jeopardize any of my personal assets to do this. If it takes longer because of that, then it just takes longer. But I have invested in my, education, so to speak.
And that's going to be important. Just investing in your education. It seems like you may not be done inventing. So when the next product rolls around, you would already have that understanding and that knowledge. It's interesting. I interviewed actually on Monday of this week the inventors of Guardian Cap, which is not sure how much you follow football, but it's a cap that goes over the helmets of the players so that it kind of protects against concussions and things like that. NFL has mandated, is worn by a lot of colleges and high school players now and things of that sort. And she was saying, it's a co-owner, husband and a wife, and she was saying how, hey, it's almost kind of better if you if it may take a little longer to kind of do it on your own, or maybe not trying to, like you said, put yourself in debt or try to get all this money from, say, an investor, just because when things go wrong, the investors want to maybe take the company or whatever the case may be, as opposed to, hey, I don't answer to anybody, and I can kind of go at my pace, so to speak. So I guess from an investor standpoint, because I know you said, and we'll talk about the Kickstarter here in a little bit. Uh, from an investor standpoint, did anybody try to come along and say, "Hey, I'll invest in this product in exchange for equity," or I guess how was those conversations and how your thought process on that?
Well, I haven't had those conversations like investors. Maybe as I get out there and, my product is seen more, perhaps I will, be able to have that conversation. But no, I haven't, no loans, no capital investors. Um, Still just trying to raise the funds through Kickstarter. And
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
to be able to manufacture. Everything else is lined up. I mean, I've gone through, I know my numbers. I know what it'll cost to manufacture it, ship it, get it through customs, the fulfillment center, the packing and shipping, I've got everything lined out. I know my numbers. I know the minimum amount that I need to ship the first, order. I just need people to pledge. I mean, it's this platform that is coaching me has you get it's like called a reservation funnel where they put down $1 to reserve that discount price. And so that I have that already lined up so that I know when I launch Kickstarter that I will get funded. And they want you to do it so you get funded in the first 24 hours.
Right.
Which I think is wonderful. So that's what I'm working toward is enough pledges to get funded in the first 24 hours.
So can you maybe kind of explain the Kickstarter? Because I knew of Kickstarter, but in researching for and preparing for this interview, I had to do a little bit more research on Kickstarter and the essence of it and whatnot. Can you maybe explain a little bit more of how Kickstarter operates for the audience who maybe not be not aware of Kickstarter and how it operates?
Well, it does have, the rules and policies in place to protect, not only the backer, but the creator as well. And it's an all or nothing. You set a goal, and if you don't reach that goal, then you don't get any of the money. And of course, the backers aren't charged at all, and they aren't charged until the campaign is over. They're not charged at the time they, pledge to buy the product. They help you have to go through other platforms called pledge managers that when the campaign ends, if you're successful, if you've reached your goal, then they gather addresses and names and addresses, and they take care of shipping the product to the customer through a pledge manager. Of course, they get a little piece of the pie, too. You can ship just in the United States or all over the world. I'm just trying to ship in the United States because that's one thing that, my product is bulky and big. So shipping is, going to be a little bit more than I would like for it to be. But going through a fulfillment center, a lot of times they get good discounts on shipping when you go through a fulfillment center. So that'll help rather than me just shipping them personally. Let's see, what else would you need to know about Kickstarter? They help you develop your page, and you connect with an email platform that keeps your backer informed. Production has started, or if you run into any problems, if something was back ordered, to keep in constant contact with your backer. Up to me with the backer, and that's a challenge, is that a lot of people say, oh, I don't know nothing about Kickstarter. I don't know if I want to put my dollar down to reserve this, because they don't know about Kickstarter. But I think, they really have policies in place to protect the backer. It's really not, risky. And I didn't know anything about it. So I backed some projects when I started doing this just to see how it worked. And it doesn't feel risky. And it's, really quite fun to see how inventors progress with their projects.
Nice. So will they pay the $89.99? Is that how that works? I'm not sure if you said it was a discount to reserve now, but if someone going on Kickstarter, do they reserve the or pay for the whole thing? Is that how that works? And then if, I guess, can you share the target amount? Is that something that you can share as far as the goal that you're trying to raise?
Yeah, the like that you like $89 is a 40% discount off MSRP price. So that $1 gives them that 40% discount. You know, to buy to start with. That's kind of their reward for putting the confidence in you to fulfill the order to them.
Gotcha. So they're paying when they initially go on and sign up. They're paying are they paying a? Now I think you said it's not taken away until the order, I guess, gets fulfilled. But are they paying the $1 or are they paying the 89? I guess the $89. I understand you said the $1 gets them the discount. But when they go on and, I guess, entering their information, are they kind of reserving it for $1 or are they actually paying the $89?
They pay on the landing page. They put down the $1, and then when the Kickstarter launches, then it's when it's the $89. But Kickstarter doesn't charge them until the Kickstarter campaign ends, because if you don't reach your goal, the backer's not charged at all. If you reach your goal, that's when they charge the discounted price of $89.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And again, I'm not, obviously you don't have to answer this, but I guess, can you share what the goal is, or is that not something that you share at this point, or that you just kind of see how things play out, and if it's hit, as opposed to kind of sharing it? Is that how that works?
Kind of see right now, it's just kind of getting to see how the market receives this product.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And now, is it free to, I know you said they kind of take a portion of the pie, which makes sense, but is it free to set up a Kickstarter? Is that how that works?
It is. Yep. They don't charge you for that. Now, when whatever amount of money that you raise, Kickstarter gets 5% of it.
And that makes sense. But again, if you're saying, hey, I don't have to kind of give you guys any equity, or I don't have to come out of my pocket for something, that's a good way to kind of get things kicked off. So, and kind of just playing this out, because we're praying that everything kind of works out the way it needs to and everything gets funded. At that point, the manufacturer in Vietnam starts to manufacture things. And do you have like a legitimate operation at that point, or do you have an operation at that point, or like what's the next step after things get the target gets funded in Kickstarter?
Yeah, that's exactly when the Kickstarter campaign ends and I have reached my goal, then I would place my order with my manufacturer. The lead time is 30 to 45 days. So then I can, do my emails, my automatic emails, send it out to backers saying, hey, you can expect shipment at, such and such time, So the shipment from Vietnam will go straight into my fulfillment center. Pledge manager will have names and addresses, and shipping will be done with each person's location.
Gotcha. Nice. So in the pledge manager, you're saying that comes along with Kickstarter, or is that through the company, the marketing company that you kind of pay for? Is that which one are they a part of, the pledge manager?
They're more a part of Kickstarter.
Okay. So then after the Kickstarter thing is over with, are you kind of done with them and kind of off and running on your own?
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, and I kind of wanted to switch. I know you had said Vietnam a few times with the manufacturer. What made you see a lot of times, I know I interviewed Nancy Tedeschi, which she made a screw for your eyeglasses. When the eyeglasses break, it was a pretty cool screw that she got a patent on, and she manufactured. She's actually licensed. She has a licensing deal. She was able to get a licensing deal with the largest land distributor in the world. But she manufactures things in China because she said it was just a lot cheaper compared to other places. What made you go the Vietnam route as opposed to maybe China or even the U.S. for that matter, even though we know the U.S. are a little bit more expensive and kind of makes it so that it's kind of tough to kind of really cost-wise to operate things based on paying manufacturing costs in the U.S. But I guess what was the differentiator between the U.S. Or Vietnam and the U.S. and like other countries like China to get the product manufactured?
And I did, when I first started all this, I really tried really hard to find someone in the U.S., for multiple reasons. But with this coaching program that I'm in, they provide, resources. They don't do the work for you, but they, do provide resources. So I went through a sourcing agency that helped me kind of evaluate Alibaba and make sure I contacted only verified manufacturers. And there was also India and Vietnam. So I had 4 factories that I dealt with to start with. And each of them made prototypes for me. And Vietnam just performed far and above what China or the India makers did, not only in craftsmanship, but in price as well. And, the communication was very prompt. So I did have 4 factories to start with, and Vietnam was just outperformed the other ones. I had 2 in China, 1 in India, 1 in Vietnam.
Nice. So the U.S. seems like, again, I know, and I kind of interview people who, like you said, for obvious reasons, wants to go to the U.S. just because it's maybe a little bit more prompt as it relates to kind of interfacing with the manufacturer and kind of getting things quicker. But again, price wise, seems like those, man, in the U.S., unless it's extremely simple thing, it's almost out of the question. So you did have a number of different manufacturers in play in different countries, India, a couple in China, and then Vietnam. And it seems like kind of going through the whole process, Vietnam worked out the best. So I guess I have a question, because it seems like when you were working with the patent agent, and for those who don't know, a patent agent could pretty much do the same thing as relates to filing or drafting and filing a patent application as a patent attorney. Now they can't kind of represent maybe when you're in court, but in terms of drafting an application, filing it, they are just as good as a patent attorney in a lot of cases if you get a good one, and they're a lot less expensive, which is also a good thing. So I guess when you're filing this thing, because in the U.S. and other countries is maybe have different rules, but in the U.S. you are when you publicly disclose it, then you have a year before you have to file an application on it. But then again, it seems like from your standpoint, you're still trying to figure out these manufacturers, because you said you ultimately end up protecting it as well in Vietnam, which is smart because that's where you're manufacturing things. Just like if you were in China, you want to protect it there so that if anybody comes down, I guess from a timing perspective, I guess how did that work out, or were you thinking about that of, okay, I'm a little further along and I'm gonna end up going with Vietnam, but I'm gonna protect it. Can I protect it? Like, what was all that stuff in your mind as you were going through the process, if that makes sense?
Uh, it wasn't so much when I was trying to license. I wasn't thinking as much of that because, I hoped that I would get a license from a company that, um, would be able to defend a patent that, that I wouldn't be able to. But then after I kind of made the mindset change to manufacturing myself, then I start thinking more about patents,
Gotcha.
and so then I talked with my patent agent, and we, talked about utility versus design, decided to go that way. Then when I was fortunately within my timeline to go ahead and file in Vietnam. I I barely, it just happened that the timing was perfect. That I found my factory, I decided on them, and I was within my timeline to file in Vietnam, and she handled that for me.
Yeah, reached out to the foreign associate in Vietnam and got things going. So I guess, was it a thing? Because I know sometimes, and everybody has their own school of thought on this, on where you want to protect it. And hey, if funds was unlimited, you would protect it everywhere, or at least the places that you plan on selling it or manufacturing it and things like that. But obviously, funds are you have to be more strategic given the cost of things. So did you ever think about it? Maybe it was just too late at this point, but protecting it in China because it could potentially be manufactured in China. So say, for example, if someone wants to try to, the name of the game is, once this thing is successful, then everybody wants to try to copy it and things like that. That's just the name of the game. So with yours being in Vietnam because of the manufacturer was just so good compared to everyone else, did you maybe ever consider, okay, let's still protect it in China just in case, we have some copycats there, or was it like, no, it's maybe no reason to do that because maybe I don't have the funds to try to protect it in China if that came about, or maybe just the time had lapsed. Was that ever a thing when you were kind of thinking through things?
There was, and I wish I had it in front of me where what she had mentioned to me, a and I can't remember what it was called, but it enveloped multiple countries.
PCT application?
Well, probably so, but I missed the timeline.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, so typically, sometimes you'll file you can file an application here, and then within a year, you can file it off that a PCT application, which gives you a little bit more time to go into in any particular country. So, for example, if you filed it in the U.S. and then you converted it to a PCT application in a year, or you filed the PCT application in a year, then you still have 18 months from that PCT application, or 30 months from the original filing to go into maybe China or Germany, or EPO, which is a European Patent Office, or whatever patent office that you want to go to. That's part of that, that agreement with the peers cooperation treaty. So that's probably what your patent agent was maybe talking about. No, that's interesting. But again, it's always from a strategic standpoint, because again, a lot of people think, okay, we're just going to manufacture this thing and sell it. But I mean, I think the IP also comes into play depending on where you're going to manufacture this stuff at or sell it. And again, I know this stuff can be expensive, but a lot of times, especially when you're trying to get investors or maybe trying to sell the business, they want to see it protected. That's one of the things. And I'll ask you about where you're thinking about going on Shark Tank. But again, when you're on Shark Tank, a lot of times they ask you, is it protected? Because when you're maybe trying to get funding or maybe try to sell the business, they want to see, is it something that's, I guess, protectable? Because if not, if nothing is keeping others from, I guess, selling this thing, then it's like, okay, what do you maybe really have at the end of the day? So I guess with that being said, did you ever think about going on Shark Tank, or just kind of given the sales, you're like, it's probably no point in doing that?
Well, I think first I have to have proof that, that people want to take that step, But of course, when I was trying to license, I said, no, I would never consider that. But now that, I've gotten into the manufacturing part of it, then absolutely, I would consider going on there, even though it'd be terrifying, to do that. But if I can, prove if I can prove that people want this product, then I'm going to do what I need to do if I can do it.
Right. No, I definitely understand that. And it seems like, hey man, publicity is it's definitely going to get you some publicity going on Shark Tank. And I guess you made a good point when you were I guess talking about wanting to license things and then ultimately having to bring it to the market yourself. Some people, they either switch gears or maybe stop altogether. But was it, I guess, a thought to say, well, I can't license it, so I'm gonna just move on to something else? Or were you like too far in to say, hey, no, I have to kind of continue the course with this thing? What made you not, I guess, give up on it after your original plan of licensing didn't work out? Because I would imagine that a fair amount of inventors end up just kind of scrapping things and going a different route or quitting altogether once that original plan of licensing doesn't work out.
Well, it might be a little awful enough. I put so much work into it, to start with. But the other thing is, I know people will love this product when they have it in their bathroom. I just know it because it's not, excuse me, it's not just the function of it, but there is a transformation that happens when you have the toilet paper tucked away out of sight. It's an experience that you can feel. And I know that probably sounds corny when we're talking about toilet paper, but it changes the whole ambiance of the room. And so I know that when I can get it in people's bathroom, they're going to tell their friends, and they're going to tell their friends, and they're going to tell their friends.
Well, and again, just with the functionality of it too, I think it's pretty cool to turn around. A lot of times, and these days, I would imagine a fair amount of people going to the bathroom with their phone and have to set the phone on the sink or whatever the case may be, as opposed to just being able to set it on the top of your invention with the because I was kind of looking at the video, and I think you guys had somebody setting it on the phone on the top. I'm not like, oh, that's convenient. So I think about all those things, and like you said, it's different because like you said, you have to kind of retrain or kind of convince somebody that they need this thing. But once they get it, it's like I can't go back. Why did it was like me and the air fryer thing. I caught that wave a lot, like years after it came out. But when I initially purchased it, I'm like, I feel like I wasted 2-3 years of my life not having that thing in my life. So what would you say? And just kind of wrapping up here, a couple questions. What would you say was the biggest breakthrough that you had? And then secondly, what would you say was maybe the biggest challenge with kind of going through this whole process? Because like you said, you've been in this thing for multiple years. I think you said 3 years. And again, I can see a lot of people just hanging it up after the first year, shortly after the second year when things are not going as planned or maybe out being sold, but you stuck with it. So I would imagine that maybe number one, a breakthrough or something happening that was good was a result of you keep pushing, because those being motivators are important. But then I would imagine that it was some challenges as well with kind of going through this process for 3 years and maybe not having or not maybe being where you initially thought you would be at. So can you share some of those with us?
Well, I think anybody that's going to start something like this, you have to be prepared to change directions because, there's so many, if you had control over every aspect of it, that's one thing, but there are so many other people and factors involved that you don't have control over. So, I guess I just accept each up was encouragement, but each down was just motivation to work around this. This is an obstacle. I got to work around it. I can change things to keep me going in the right direction. So I think it's imperative. I mean, just be prepared. Anybody that's going to start this, especially with, no background knowledge, just be prepared. This is definitely the hardest thing that I have ever tried to do in my life. I mean, being in the medical field, doing ultrasound, that's got its own challenges and studying, keeping up with advances, all that, your CMEs, your continuing education, but this is the hardest thing I have ever tried to do. So I would just say be prepared.
Nice. That's now I see at least one in the background. Is it possible to bring that up? I kind of want to give the viewers a good look at what it is, because again, this thing is pretty cool and it looks very luxurious. There we go.
So this is a magnetic.
Okay. So you could have definitely got a utility application on that. I understand the fun, but I think, yep.
And, just a little tower that holds 3 megalones. My first I put a little skirt on the bottom of it because my first upgrade to this is going to be a motion activated night light. So when you walk into the bathroom, the light will come from around here and light up the stand, the holder.
Yep.
So, and it's very like acacia wood, and it's very heavy. I mean, it's about 9 pounds, I guess.
Pretty sturdy.
It is not going to tip over. There's no assembly required. There's no holes that have to line up and that don't line up. No tools required.
So when you get that, it's in its final form. They don't have to do any assembly. It just put the paper, the toilet paper in and go.
That's right. And
nice.
A little shelf.
Yeah.
And it works on either side of the seat. If you need the paper to come off this side, well, it's over there. Then you just turn your roll around on the other side. So it works on either side of the seat. A magnet doesn't lose its strength like 1% over 100 years. So that should be durable. Of course, the acacia wood is durable.
Yep.
In my rotation device, the way it works, it has a metal sleeve and a metal pin that protects, the wood, so there shouldn't be any wear. So this should always operate smoothly. you know.
Yeah, you
So
got man, and that's the interesting thing because obviously I think you're going to be good with a design panel, but I think you could have got a utility panel. I've never seen anything like that. I mean, that's gorgeous. Talking about luxury.
this is my farmhouse style. Now I have 3 other models already 90% designed that go from chic to industrial luxury. They
Mhm.
all involve, you know, injection molding and different things like that. But this was the one I could make myself and get started with it, the least expensive one. But I have 3 other models for different styles. This is kind of like a farmhouse, modern farmhouse style. But I hope that when I get this one started manufacture, I can manufacture the
Uh,
next.
for sure, absolutely. No, thank you for displaying that. Again, once the video comes out, typically, and what I've been doing lately, I'll continue to follow the Kickstarter campaign and I'll get one for myself. Cause typically I like to like buy one for myself to use and things like that, but I also like to try to gift one to someone else as well. So I maybe look to do that somehow where with the Kickstarter campaign, go get purchase two and hope that I get it one for me and one for someone else. And then if it works out where everything gets funded, then we can be on the lookout for those. So I'll maybe look to do that. I guess maybe as we close out here, maybe number one, how can people go on Kickstarter to actually purchase one or yeah, look to purchase one of those things. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Right now, it's just going to the landing page. That's where they put down their dollar. And when I get enough $1 reservations, then I will launch the Kickstarter. So right now, it's just going to the landing page, and that landing page is uh, get TP Suites SUITES.com, and
Okay.
that to the landing page. And right now, I'm kind of trying to restructure some of my images to make them more luxurious and
Yeah.
try to make people think of this as furniture. So right now it kind of still has well, images will be changing. Let me
Okay.
put it that way. Images will be changing, but the function of the landing page is still there. Put in your dollar, and then you're reserved for the discounted price.
Okay. No, perfect. I'm definitely going to do two of those, one for me and one for an audience member. Uh, yeah, man, it's interesting, especially when you're talking about it, like I said, branding comes along with it a lot because it may be one of those things where you have to say, hey, the last stand or whatever that you ever will need to buy. And when someone's buying a $500,000 house, $1 million house, it doesn't make sense to get a stick and what do you call it, a pole on a stick?
Oh,
Yeah, right, exactly. At that point, you might as well get, hey, the last stand that you will ever need, however, I guess coming out with it, because again, that's one of those things that, if you do decide to move, well, it seems like you're going to have it forever, but then when you do decide to move, you're not throwing that away. You're bringing that to the next place. I know a lot of times when I move here or there, I'm finding what I can throw away and start fresh, but that's one of those things that I'm definitely taking to the next place with me because it's so valuable and luxurious.
thank you, David.
No problem. And then I guess the last question is, how can people get in touch with you? So we got the landing page for people to go to if they wanted to support and reserve the dollar. How can other people get in touch with you? Do you have social media, email, website? Can you maybe share those things with the audience?
Yep. TP Suites on Facebook and Instagram. And then my email is Rhonda's Room, RHONDASROOM 356 at gmail.com. So Rhonda's Room 356 at gmail.com. And I'd love to hear from anybody, suggestions, colors. If I hope I'm starting with 3 colors: a white, a natural, and then the dark color. But as I go on, we can make different colors. I've even had this thought of, on the white one, if I could get football, like sports teams logos that would go, could be embedded into the wood there for those people that like to decorate on their alma mater. Yeah.
I'll be a Michigan State now in the background as you see. But No, that's man. Please go follow the Instagram, the Facebook. If you have any questions, maybe shoot her an email. Definitely go on the landing page to support. And I'm definitely going to stay in touch because I want to hopefully bring you back if you are willing to come back after things kick off. I know you're going to be successful with this thing, and I would love to kind of get an update here in 6 months or so as things are kind of popping off more. But I thank you for coming on. I think this is a very not only you shared a lot of good information with somebody who's trying to kind of start their process of their entrepreneurial journey with their product and invention or whatnot. But I think your product is very fascinating, and I'm gonna get a white one because my bathroom is white. But I'm excited to get one in my hands and use it because, like I said, that's one of the worst things over the course of a week or a month when I found out that it's too late and I need more tissue. And I'm like, it makes, thankfully I stay by myself and I can maybe navigate those waters more. But for somebody who's maybe I guess yeah, I don't know. It could be a maybe embarrassing or a difficult thing to find yourself in that situation.
For sure. And this does solve this. This has lots of benefits that we haven't even talked about. So I appreciate you having me on. It's been a lot of fun to talk to you.
For sure. Well, thank you. Thank you. And audience, until next time, we are out.